An extraordinary alarm sounded from the inside out, jaw-dropping charges against the president by someone who says they work for him. An anonymous source describing a secret cluster of top aides, quote, working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations. I would know, the author writes. I am one of them. The New York Times late today publishing that op-ed, choosing not to share who wrote it, but describing them as an official whose job would be jeopardized if their identity was revealed. The headline, I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration.
When you tell me about some anonymous source within the administration, probably who's failing and probably here for all the wrong reasons, if the failing New York Times has an anonymous editorial, can you believe it? Anonymous, meaning gutless, a gutless editorial. We're doing a great job.
The writer praising some of the president's successes, but arguing they've come despite, not because of, his leadership style. Describing half-baked, ill-informed, and occasionally reckless decisions that have to be walked back. At one point, the official describes early whispers within the cabinet of invoking the 25th Amendment to remove the president, but no one wanted to precipitate a constitutional crisis. Americans should know that there are adults in the room, the person writes. We fully recognize what is happening, and we are trying to do what's right, even when Donald Trump won't. The explosive op-ed echoes the portrait painted in a bombshell new book of a chaotic White House driven by dysfunction. The president doesn't believe any of it.
The book means nothing. It's a work of fiction. If you look back at Woodward's past, he had the same problem with other presidents. He likes to get publicity, sell some books.
The book's author, Bob Woodward, one of the most well-respected journalists of his generation, whose reporting helped bring down Richard Nixon.
For the American people, why should they believe you over Bob Woodward?
Well, if you look at Bob Woodward's track record, I mean, he had the same problem with Obama. Every time he wrote a book, they were complaining about it. They were complaining about the lack of accuracy.
Woodward tells NBC News he stands by his reporting.
And the president tonight seemed to refer to that anonymous op-ed with a tweet of just a single word, treason. And the press secretary is now calling the writer a coward, saying whoever it was should resign. All of it, Lester, capping yet another extraordinary and explosive day inside this West Wing.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here. And click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.